Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abam, welcome. Beis Av. Today is the second day of Av. Today is the Yahrzeit of Rabbi Shroya Tivlitsky. He's one of the great Mekubalim. He lived in Bnei Brak. I mentioned I had this chus to meet him. Today is also the first full day really of the campaign. You might not have heard. Maybe you didn't get enough messages. So for all you out there who would like to be mishtatef, the best way is to set up your team page, or you could go to charity.com/mmh25. We're holding in the 9 days, and we're mourning the Churban Beis Hamikdash, and here we're trying to build Beis HaKnesses l'chavoid u'leteferes of the Ribbon Shalom. You could feel very proud if you're mishtatef in this Beis Medrash. We hope this Beis Medrash will ultimately be transplanted and become part of the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. We uphold over here Kavod HaTfilah and their Limud HaTorah. So whatever you could do to be mechazek, Kavod Aleichem Bracha. The new Sefer is now available, Tzipisa Yeshua, and I'm uncommittal right now. Uncommittal what the next one will be in terms of the Sifrei Chafetz Chaim, but we're going to give a shot. We have to see how it comes along. You know, a lot of factors are needed to make it happen. But today we're going to speak about the topic of Ahavas Yisroel. The Chafetz Chaim also has a little kuntres called Ahavas Yisroel, and we'll see what comes of it. We spoke about many times that Arizal teaches that every morning one should have the following kavana and even say, Hareini mekabel al atzmi mitzvahs aseh shel v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha. Right? We have a shiur on that from Parshas Kadoshim, that every morning before davening you should say Hareini mekabel al atzmi mitzvahs aseh shel v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha. As a introduction to tefillah, as a preamble to tefillah, one should accept upon themselves the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha. What we want to talk about today is the opportunities in davening to mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha. You know, we have a bookmark of all the places in davening that you could have in mind your children. Right? Yehuda, all the places in davening you could have in mind your children. Do you remember what they are? Where are all the places in davening? In short, all the places in davening to have in mind your children. Do we have the Sefer here? It's in the Sefer. In Birchas HaTorah, yeah? V'niya anachnu v'tzetzainu, kulanu yodei shemecha. We have in Ahava Rabbah, when you say V'sein b'libeinu bina lahavinu lahaska, one should have in mind their children. When you say V'shinantam livanecha, the Ramchal says you should have in mind that your love of Hashem should be so great it should extend to your children. When you say in Shemona Esrei Hashivenu, should have in mind your children. When you say, where else? In Moedim, L'dar Vadar Noideh Lecha, you should have in mind your children. When you say, V'nafshi ke'afar la'kol tiyeh, Tosfos in Pesachim says you should have in mind, just like afar will never be destroyed, so too one's children. When you say, what were the other times? When you say in Uvalatzion, Laman loy niga lorik v'loy neil lebahala, when you open up the Arayin, you say, V'sehav li benin dichrin da'avdin re'usach. In Hamapil, when you say, Usehei mitasi shleim al-fanecha, and for the list of all 15 times, check out the Sefer, V'zakeni legadel. Soon to be in English in Art Scroll, very soon, upcoming, couple months, okay? But if you want to check out all 15, V'zakeni, fine. And then we spoke at length about the times in davening to be mitzapel Yeshua. I have a feeling I might know those better. I could say those better. I'm not telling you how. First of all, in the Parshas HaTamid, when you say Yiratzim Ofanecha Shem Sheibana Beis Hamikdash Meher V'Yameinu, by the way, it's in the new book, yeah. When you say in the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel Yiratzim Ofanecha Shem Elokeinu Sheibana Beis Hamikdash Meher V'Yameinu, when you say in Kaddish Yiskadel V'Yiskadei Shmei Rabbah, it's a tefillah to see the elevation of the honor of Hashem. In Psuke de Zimra, when you say Negadelcha Uneshabecha Unefercha, Unefa'ercha, the halalukas are an opportunity to be mitzvah Yeshua. In Yoitzer Or, when you say Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir. In Ava Rabba, when you say V'Haviyenu L'Sholem Yaber Kanfeis Oretz. In the pasuk of Shema. In Goyal Yisroel in Shemona Esrei. In Tekah B'Shofar in Shemona Esrei. In Yushalayim in Shemona Esrei. In Esemach David in Shemona Esrei. In Ritzei in Shemona Esrei. When you take 3 steps back, when you say in Uvalatzion L'Shnei Yemois HaMashiach Harakiah Maba, in Aleinu Al Kein Nekabelcha, those are 15 occasions. Now we're going to talk about what opportunities do you have to mekayem the mitzvah of Yahavta L'Recha Kamoicha, other than when you, before davening, you say Hareini Mekabel Alatzmi Mitzvah Sasei Shel Yahavta L'Recha Kamoicha. Could you think of any? I was having a very hard time. However, I want to share with you a very interesting idea. The Arizal teaches in the pre-Eitz Chaim, Shar Hazmirois, Shar Ruach HaKodesh, that whenever you do a mitzvah, you should say you're doing the mitzvah B'Shem Kol Yisroel. You ever hear that thing? In those who say L'Shem Yichud, the L'Shem Yichud ends B'Shem Kol Yisroel. You're doing this mitzvah in the name of all of Israel. What's interesting is, even though this is brought in the Arizal, and those who daven Eidos HaMizrach or Nusach Sfard would generally say this, there's a very interesting story about I hope it's here, about the Rashbam. Oh, I have it. You ready? Oh, Baruch Hashem. There's an amazing story about the Rashbam. Who is the Rashbam? Anybody know? He was a rabbi. He was an Orthodox rabbi. Anybody know who he was? He is the grandson of Rashi. And we have a tradition that was found in an old manuscript, Mipi Ri Tsarfasi, that when the Rashbam, the son of the daughter of Rashi, was passing away, he sent everyone out of the room, and everyone left the room. And he called over one worthy Talmud, and he gave him over all of his secrets. And here's one of the secrets he gave him. He says, when you give tzedakah, when you're menadev tzedakah, l'tzadikim, when you give tzedakah, you should give a specific sum to tzedakah. And you should desire that Hashem should favor your act. And then after you give the tzedakah, go and give a little bit more. Meaning, let's say you give $100. After you give the $100, you should give a quarter. Why? You should add a pruta or add a certain amount, and you should say quietly, this pruta I'm adding b'shem kol Yisrael. Also, every tefillah you offer or every tzedakah you give, if you don't think you're giving it for all of Klal Yisrael, it's not accepted. So let's say later after the share, you're going to go on to the campaign and you're going to click charity.com/MMH25. Let's say you're going to give $1 million, right? After that, you could say, I'm giving it me, the big Gvir, Donald Trump, whatever your name is, right? He could also give, why not? After that, you should also give $1. And then you should have in mind that that dollar is B'Shem Kol Yisrael. So it's broad. A remez to this is the pasuk in Yehuda's Bar Mitzvah Parsha, Parshas Re'eh. Nasoin titein lai, v'layera levavcha b'sitcha lai, ki beglal hadavar hazeh. So the question is, why lama yera levavai? Why should your heart be? Why does it have to say v'lo yera levavcha? Why should you give it with a bad heart? So basically, the Rashbam says it's coming to me marame is nasayin titein, because since after you give tzedakah, you should add tzedakah b'shem kol Yisrael, lest you say so much I gave and then give again. No, it has to say v'lo yera levavcha b'sitcha lai, because of that extra tzedakah you give b'shem kol Yisrael, yivarechecha Hashem leikecha. Okay, so this idea that you should do mitzvahs b'shem kol Yisrael is not just from the Ari. Even the Rishonim said you should do it. So now I want to read you from the Mesilas Yesharim. We mentioned this in the Shabbos Shuvah Drasha. The Mesilas Yesharim writes all the way at the end of the Sefer in Chalkei HaChasidus that one of the very great kavanos one should have when doing mitzvahs is toivas hadar, for the benefit of the generation. It says that Mesilas Yesharim, Hinei roi l'chol chased, it is worthy for every righteous person, sheyiskavein b'masav l'toivas dara kulai, that he should have kavana in his actions for the benefit of the whole generation. Lezakoi soisam, to merit them, ulahagein aleim, and to protect them. So when you're putting on tefillin, you should think, look, I had the benefit of a Jewish education. I had the benefit of observant parents. Did you know most Jews didn't go to yeshiva? Most Jews, they don't wear tefillin. They don't know what tefillin is. Actually, most Jews never heard of Avram Avinu. Do you know that? Today, in 2025, most Jews never heard of Abraham. They don't know the difference between Avram Avinu and James Madison. They probably don't know either. They don't know the difference between Avram Avinu and George Washington. 90% of Jews don't know the pasuk Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. My father once was asked to speak to a girl, a Jewish girl who converted to Christianity. So my father asked her, why did you convert? She said, I was so blown away by the Christian Bible. Really? What does it say in the Christian Bible? She said, it says in the Christian Bible, you should love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your money. I was so moved by that, I felt I had to convert to this beautiful religion. She didn't even know the Parsha of Kriya Shema. She didn't know it was in the Torah. Anyway, so when you put on tefillin, your kavanah should be you're wearing tefillin for all of Klal Yisrael to bring them merit and to protect them. Like it says, Imru tzadik ki toiv ki pri ma'alaleim yachelu, that the whole generation should eat from the fruits of your mitzvahs. When the pasuk says in Shalach, Hayesh ba eitz im ayin, is there someone in the generation who protects the generation like a tree? Says Mesilas Yesharim, V'tira shezeu ritzono shel makom, this is the will of God. Sheyu chasidei Yisrael mezakim umechaprim al kol shar hamadrego shebehem, that the righteous Jews bring merit and atonement for all of Klal Yisrael. This is what Chazal say about the lulav. Yavoyu elu v'yichapru al elu. The esrog, which tastes good and smells good, is mechaper for the aravos. The arava represents someone who has no Torah, no mitzvahs. She'ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu chafetz ba'avdan rasham. Hashem does not desire the destruction of the wicked. Ela mitzvah mutelas al hachasidim lehishtadel lezakoisim lechaper aleim. There's a mitzvah that is incumbent upon righteous Jews to try to bring merit to all of Klal Yisrael and atonement for them. V'zeh tzarach sheyasa bekavanas avoidasai. This you need to do in the kavanah you have when you serve Hashem, v'gam b'tfilasai b'fayal, and also in your tefillah, in your prayers. Dahainu sheyispalel al doira, you need to daven for the generation, lechaper al mi shetzarch chapara, to atone for those who need kapara, ulahashiv b'tshuva mi shetzarch la, and to bring back in tshuva those who need it. So I saw last night in the siddur of the Eishel Avram of Buchach, Tefillah LeDavid, listen to this. He says when you do a mitzvah, you should be mechavein. When you say the words b'shem kol Yisrael, have in mind to be mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. Ooh, so now we just opened up a very big vista, a new way to understand how to do mitzvahs. That means that when you are mekayim a mitzvah, you could have the following kavanah. Every time you're mekayim a mitzvah, you ready? Even if you don't say the words b'shem kol Yisrael, you should think before you're mekayim any mitzvah, you're doing the mitzvah b'shem kol Yisrael, and thereby to be mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. So you ready? How many opportunities do you have to mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha every morning? So you just have to think, how many mitzvahs d'oraisa we do? Number one, Birchas HaTorah. Before you say Birchas HaTorah, you should have kavanah. You're doing the mitzvah b'shem kol Yisrael, and you're mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. In other words, I know a guy down the block, he doesn't say Birchas HaTorah. I'm saying Birchas HaTorah to bring him merit. So I'm doing it b'shem kol Yisrael, and I'm mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. That's one. Number two, tzitzis, or talis. Number three, tefillin. Why should you only wrap tefillin for yourself? You should wear tefillin to bring zechus and protection for all of Klal Yisrael. We're up to 3 mitzvahs. What else? Kriya Shema. Before you say Shema, if we haven't had enough kavanos, you should think you're doing the mitzvah for all of Klal Yisrael and to mekayim the mitzvah of Ahavta l'recha kamaycha. Davening at least once a day is a dairaisa. It's advisable before you start Shemona Esrei to have kavana to mekayim the mitzvah dairaisa of tefillah. So you should also think you're doing it b'shem kol Yisrael. Even though Yeshiva Darchei Torah is a very big yeshiva. Did you know that, Yehuda? It's a very big yeshiva. Still, not all Jews go to Yeshiva Darchei Torah. It's a chiddush, right? Even though they have eight classes for every grade, still, most Jews, they don't put on talis, they don't put on tefillin, they don't say Kriya Shema, they don't say Berachas HaTorah, they're not davening every day. So if you have the zechus to do that, you should do it b'shem kol Yisrael, and you're mekayim the mitzvah of Ahavta l'recha kamaycha for each mitzvah you do. So really, when you come to shul in the morning, it's almost uncanny how many mitzvahs you could do. It's really amazing. There's a sefer Igeras Hatiol from the brother of the Maharal of Prague. He says that David HaMelech finished Tehillim, right? We once discussed this. Even though there are 150 chapters in Tehillim, really the end of Tehillim is Perek Ayin Beis, where David HaMelech says, Kalu Tfilois David ben Yishai. Kalu is Rashi Tevois, V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha, backward. To indicate that in order for one's tefillos to be proper, it should be with the kavana of V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. So let's advance this. Because, so far how many mitzvahs d'oraisa are there? Berachas HaTorah, tzitzis, tefillin, tefillah, kriya shema. Any other mitzvahs d'oraisa you do? Right, yeah, sure, Berachas HaMazon. But I'm saying in the morning, like part of that's pretty much. But here's another opportunity. There's a sefer Oilas Tamid. Who wrote the Oilas Tamid? Reb Shmuel Hamaner. He was a big tzaddik. He wrote Eved HaMelech on Tanakh. He says, let's say your friend is going through a difficult situation. He says in Perek Yud Gimel Halacha Zayin, Kishe'ein adam mala alibay l'spalal al tzaras chaveroi. If you don't think in your mind to daven for your friend, yitachein sheye'anesh, it's possible that you will be punished, that you yourself will not be answered. You should have thought, if I would have had the distress that he has, I would daven for it. All the tefillos we say are b'lashon rabbim. Rifa'enu. Re'ena va'anyenu. In that case, it comes out that there are many opportunities to be mekayim the mitzvah of Ahavta l'reacha kamaycha.
I got another one.
What do you have?
Remembering that we left Mitzrayim.
Oh, good. Nissim is adding, thank you. Remembering that we left Mitzrayim at the end of Kriya Shema is another mitzvah d'oraisa. So aside from when you remember that we left Mitzrayim, aside from being mitzapel Yeshua, you could also think you're doing it b'shem kol Yisrael and you're being mekayim this after Rechama. So let's just add as follows. If all the tefillos are b'lashon rabbim, because you're not only davening for yourself, you're davening for other people. And when you daven for other people, look, if you wouldn't daven for other people, you'd be violating V'ahavta l'reacha kamaycha. So when you are davening for other people, you're being mekayim V'ahavta l'reacha kamaycha. So you have a lot of new opportunities. This one I'm not counting. This one is like, you could count it if you wanted. I don't know that most adults don't think this way, but I think yeshiva bachram think this way. Let's say there's a guy in the shiur. He's not doing as good as maybe he would want or as he could, and he needs more chachma, he needs more bina, he needs more das. So really everybody should daven impassionately that Hashem should make us smarter, that we could understand the Torah. But if you see somebody that, he's struggling with the shiur, he's struggling in learning, if you daven for him, you're mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. But let's go to tshuva. When you ask Hashem, Shivenu avinu l'sarasacha, in many Sidurim, in the Masuk Midvash, there's an added thing you could say composed by the Alshech. I think the Arizal gave it to the Alshech, to daven for those who need to do tshuva. So let's say you know somebody, they need to make a right turn. They fell off the straight and the narrow a little bit. Let's say you need to be mispalo for somebody to, so to speak, come back on the right path. So you should think, I'm davening for so and so to do tshuva, and my kavana is to mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Or you're davening for people to get slicha mechila. You should have in mind all of Klal Yisrael, and you can be mekayim the mitzvah v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Or let's say somebody's in a bind, he's in a jam, he's in a tight situation. Re'eu nava anyenu. You should have in mind you're davening for them to mekayim the mitzvah v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. These are things we don't necessarily think about so much. I think Rifa'inu, everybody is more alert to. You have somebody who needs a refuah shalema, you daven for them. That's more on our radar to have in mind to daven for somebody else who mekayim the mitzvah v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. But it could be done for das, it could be done for tshuva, it could be done for slicha, it could be done to be extricated from a difficult situation, for refuah, and then parnasa. You're not the only person who needs to make money. There are other Yidden who need parnasa. So if you're mispalel for other Jews to be matzliach in parnasa, you can have in mind to be mekayim the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. So especially this time of the year, where the Gemara says in Yuma that the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinas chinam, it's a good time of the year to bear in mind that there are countless opportunities throughout the day. Let's say you ate a bagel. I never said you should eat a bagel. Just because we serve bagels here, it's not my personal recommendation. You're better off eating tuna fish, or avocado, or whole wheat bread. A bagel, you're going to have to exercise for about 4 hours to navigate that bagel. But if you ate it, and because you're an active guy, you have a lot of energy, and you need to, so you're going to say Berachas Hamazayin. Before you say Berachas Hamazayin, you should think, I'm being mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of Berachas Hamazayin, and you can have in mind all the kavanas we mentioned in the Shabbos Shuvah drasha. You're doing the mitzvah with tshuva, you're doing the mitzvah with avas Hashem, with yiras Hashem, with simcha. You're doing it to bring nachas ruach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you're doing it to bring merit to the Jewish people. Because then you could say, I didn't really want to eat the bagel. It's not me. I wanted to do it for the benefit of Klal Yisrael. I only ate the bagel with cream cheese for the benefit of the Jewish people, to bring them merit, to bring them protection. And we should be zoicha to be mekayim this great mitzvah that Rabbi Akiva said, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Zeh Klal Gadol b'Torah, that the whole Torah stands on the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Have a good day, everyone. Baruch v'atzlacha. Now, stay tuned, because there might be a surprise siyum coming up one of these nights, maybe even at the end of the campaign, with a barbecue. And then when you come and you bench, you could also have kavana that you're doing it b'shem kol Yisrael. Okay, have a good day, everyone.